to introduce our head of solutions consulting, Mr. Adam Geet. So, Adam, I'm going to take it away so you can show AI and deal reg.
As a vendor persona, as I mentioned, Scalen gives me that ability to just jump right in and immediately attack all of the deals that I have on my plate. There's a couple of different values that we can go ahead and ask Scalen to execute right away. So if I want to see what those pending approval status deals are, I can go ahead and one click in right to that list of opportunities. Now, this gives me a great point in time moment and snapshot of what's pending. But if I want to see what the total value is, instead of looking at a CRM report or trying to find that attachment in my email that finance sent last week, I can also ask Scalen to show me the total value of all of my deal registrations. So right now, I've got about $260,000 worth of deal registrations out there that Scalen was able to instantly grab and summarize for me as a partner. Really makes the process of operating through my deal registration portfolio really fast. Now, vendors also benefit from Scalen. So let me change personas over to the vendor view. And as a vendor, Scaling can also help me accelerate my workflows around deal registration in my entire partner portfolio. It can help me understand the value of the pipeline and even manage duplicates. So as a vendor persona here, I have the ability to just dive right in. Now, think about this. It's almost summertime. Pam said it's 90 degrees in Boston today. So I might want to take a long weekend and I'm fresh off the long weekend coming back in as a partner account manager. So I can use Scalen to just get up to speed right away on what the critical actions are. Let's say for one of my best partners. So, hey, what are the deals that came in while I was out scaling over the last few days for this particular partner of mine? Well, I've got three deals that came in. I now know that these are going to be my absolute priorities. Well, if I want to get beyond just what those particular deals are, and go even deeper and say, hey, what's the value of all of the pipeline for that particular partner? Scaling can also help me do that really quickly. Now, I know this is a really important partner here. I've got over $1 million in deals. So let's get to approving. Well, this one is pending approval, and there's a couple other here. There's one, Buffalo Enterprises. Let's see. Didn't I see this one last week? I might have seen this one last week. Well, scaling can also help me understand duplicates, and it can tell me if I have duplicates or if I don't. Now, I know that I swear I saw this. Is this a duplicate deal? And with a simple ID, I can pass that over to Scalen and it'll tell me, nope, there's no duplicate deals identified for that particular opportunity. Now, I can go as far with this as I want and use Scalen to help identify those duplicates or not as I'm working through my deal approval process. So let me wrap the demo right there. And that was just a few examples of how Scalen, our agent, can really help make the process of managing deal registrations easier for both partners and vendors. I showed you a few examples of those deal inspection or deal investigation during the approval process today. And in the near future roadmap, we're planning on adding new capabilities around approvals and rejections, as well as decision making and even prediction capabilities. We're really excited to work on those and launch those later this year. Back to you, Pam.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. Exciting stuff. So we've just seen a couple of things that are now possible with AI-driven automation and deal registration, but technology alone doesn't solve all of our challenges, now does it? At the heart of deal registration is trust. It's trust between partners and vendors. It's trust in the rules of engagement. It's trust that the process is fair, transparent, and worth participating in. So I want to shift the conversation from the technology, which we will get back to, trust me, um, but get back to the operational realities behind it, because automation only works when the underlying process and partner experience are designed well. So with that, I want to welcome our panelists for today's conversation, Sue Baker, Kevin Murata, and Tim Brunn. Thank you so much for joining. Let's just start. I know I just said your names, but just simply introduce yourself, your role, your company, maybe brief on what your company does, and I'll ask you all where you're dialing in from today. So, Sue, I'm going to start with you.
Excellent. I'm at Ninja One. We are a IT platform to allow users to manage every device, endpoint, and support every employee. I'm dialing in from Austin, Texas, our headquarters today. Normally I sit in San Diego, but I'm at our headquarters. So that's where I'm from.
So, I'm guessing it's a little hot there too.
It is. Yes, it is.
Kevin, you're up.
Thanks, Pam. And Sue, two of my favorite cities in the US, by the way. I'm dialing in from Cork, Ireland. I used to live in Austin for a few years and really enjoyed my time there. My name is Kevin Murata. I work for Itron. At Itron, we believe in protecting energy and water resources. We believe it's an essential responsibility of a company like ours. We help utilities, municipalities, and cities manage their energy and water. Okay, so we have an integrated platform of networks, devices such as meters and sensors and endpoints, and SaaS platforms that help meet customer needs. My role at Itron is the director of the Global Channel Program and Strategy. So I work with a talented team of folks who some of them are on the line today, which is great to see. And we just help our channel partners drive our message into the utility industry.
Love it. Thank you. Tim, last but not least.
Yeah, thanks, Pam. Tim Brunn from Vation, and Vation is a channels consulting firm that focuses on innovation and bringing emerging technologies to the channel. And I work on the channels team and do all kinds of distribution and channels work. And I am calling in from a Vation event in Arizona, but I live in Colorado.
Awesome. Great. All right. We're well represented across the map today. All right, Kevin, I am going to start with you, but first we are going to pop another poll question that's related to the question I'm about to ask you, which is what creates the most friction in your deal registration process today? So while you are all answering that, Kevin, I really want to start with you've seen, let's set the stage here. You've seen deal registration evolve over many years, especially in high touch enterprise environments. Historically, from your perspective, where has the biggest friction come from?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in environments where it's high volume, and I've been in environments where it's we focus on complex solutions and some simple solutions. So a few different areas to focus on. However, one of the biggest friction points is these long forms, right? How much information does a technology provider want from a channel partner? And how much information is required to close the deal or approve the deal? I think it's an ongoing discussion and argument, right? Because the more information you have on the partner who's supposed to know the customers as much as possible, then you actually want to give the deal reg to that partner. On the other side, I think the approval flows, right? I think the more people you have in the approval flows, the longer it takes. I think the more eyes you have on it, it becomes a problem. And that's been a friction point over time. Partners want, in my opinion, almost real-time approvals, right? And they'll always question, for the right reasons, why their deal can't get approved pretty quickly. I think on the vendor side, you want to have the right people looking at the right deals and making the right decisions, right? So it's that balance that you got to see. So those are two areas. I think the other area that would come to mind, yes, channel conflict is a problem. I think everybody who has deal registration is thinking of, can this solve channel conflict? And in general, I think that from my perspective currently, I think that sits a little further down the list of friction points when it comes to deal reg.
No, those are really important ones, right? And some friction's okay. I mean, you got to expect if you're
Right.
if you're in the partnership game, you have to have some friction to get
Hmm.
through. I think
Yeah.
what's obvious to people, right, is that unnecessary when they know you're asking questions that aren't the critical questions, and creating some unnecessary friction in that process. So
Hmm.
that let's pop those poll answers and see what everybody else said. All right, approval delays. Yep, in line with what Kevin said, lack of visibility into status, another good one. Integration issues. Yikes. Yeah. All good answers. All right. Let's thank you for that. Um, Tim, I'm going to flip it over to you. We talked about obviously the again the operational elements, the process elements that create friction, but there's the intangibles here going on too as it relates to the program that you can't necessarily pinpoint with a form change or something like that. We see in our data that you could have the world's simplest process in the world, but it doesn't necessarily correlate to increased close rates. You mentioned trust as one of the core pillars of a strong partner program. So, why does deal registration have such an outsized impact on partner trust?
It's the first time when partner sales reps, it's the first time they interact with the vendor is
Yep.
generally when they submit a deal reg, and their entire view, they might have had some training, might not, but their entire view of do I trust this vendor is from submitting that deal reg, and then everything that happens downstream of that. And as everybody on this call knows, trust is very hard to earn. It's a long hill up, very easy to lose. And so that's why, having the policies around deal reg, the policies around rules of engagement, and then training them pervasively throughout a sales organization, not just the channels team, is so important. Because you can have the best deal reg process and most margin, but if nobody trusts the reps, you're not going to get any. And
Right.
so that's why it's just so fundamental. I think everything we do in channels, we should look back as how does this build trust? How does this build trust? How does this build trust with reps, with between channels and vendor reps? And I think it's a basic, but we need to go back to basic. I think a lot of times, I think we lose track of it.
Yeah, I agree. Um, well, and Sue, I think you had a thought, and I want you to chime in on this. I'm going to pop the poll
Absolutely.
question while you do, which is to the
Yeah.
audience: what damages partner trust the fastest in deal
Yeah.
registration? And Sue, yes, please chime in.
Yeah. Like Tim called out, right? Like that deal reg process, that first step is where I've seen over 90% of partner reps, the first engagement comes into the partner portal at wanting to register a deal. So, we're kind of keeping that process simple and easy for them to accomplish. Really is an important part of keeping them engaged, building that trust, right? And then eventually keeping them longer in that partner portal so they can get certifications, they can get training, so they can get the other skill sets and resources that you want them to get. But having deal reg be simple and easy is so key, because that is where most of your partner reps will come in and engage with your organization for the first time.
And to your point, yes, it's the first time. So breaking trust out of the get-go, I mean, that's so hard to get that back. I'm curious if any of you have a strategy like what happens if it goes wrong? How do you get trust back in that first engagement?
Yeah, I mean, the process has got to be transparent. So even when you have problems, you have to come completely transparent, bring all parties together, get it all out on the table, and that's the only way that you can potentially move forward.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with you, Tim. I think, you know, in my experience, trust doesn't just disappear, it erodes, right? And every time there's a little crack, you gotta repair it through probably, from my experience, just honesty, right? I've had a couple of experiences where we've had to sit down with a partner and explain situations, but when you have that situation, you do have to be honest about the scenario and the process. No matter what type of rules of engagement you have and how transparent it is, we're human, something's going to happen, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And so if you keep the honest side of it, keep it open and transparent. And, like I said, if we can have a rules of engagement document that says this is how we want to operate, sometimes that doesn't transpire. You just got to be open and honest and have the frontal conversation.
So
You've got to
honesty
do
is
right,
the
but
the spackling, right? Like of trust in the relationship here.
Right.
Sue, sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say you've got to be willing to do right by the partner too, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it might mean that some of the internal folks might get feathers ruffled, or other things, but trying to do right by the partner, make sure that the partner, if you can, support them in that, do that whenever you can with transparency. And making sure that we might get to this later, make sure that the foxes aren't guarding the hen house, right? Like that the people who are approving deal regs are not the ones that have a financial incentive not to approve a deal reg.
Yeah, you just teed that up perfectly because I was coming at you with this question, which is one of the tensions in deal registration is the sales team wants as much information as possible, while partners want the process to be fast and easy. So, how do you balance those competing priorities?
They are very much competing priorities. And one of the ways that we do it is by having different types of deal reg forms based on the partner or based on the geography, right? So I'm asking as few questions as possible. So that balancing that tension between my sales team who wants as much information, who wants things teed up perfectly, and the partner rep who wants to just give us a name and a phone number, right? Like, what's the fine line between those? Finding the right balance of the right number of questions to ask, but then also making it so that the form itself is easy to complete. It's the wonky side of it, right? Like as you go in and you're having to choose a distributor, you're not having to go through a global list of 50 distributors. You can see, oh, I'm based in Asia Pacific. I only am presented with the list that is specific to my region. Little pieces like that, or
Yeah.
cases where making sure that fields are required when that's going to impede the deal reg process if it's not, that information isn't included, and then not requiring fields that are nice to haves, and that fine balance in that area as well.
Yeah. And so it's funny because it sounds the opposite, but segmentation in this case actually helps simplicity, right? If you can really segment correctly and only ask the right people the questions you need to ask, you can simplify that form.
Yeah, complexity on the back end can lead to simplicity on the front end. And really,
Yeah,
our audience is those partners. And so keeping it as simple as possible for the partners completing that form is really, really key.
I love that. Next poll question, which is what are your top challenges in managing the deal registration process? Curious what everyone here says. And while you're doing that, fun fact, so we obviously at Channel Scaler have the ability to see data across all all partners and programs. The average number of form fields, I don't know, any of my panelists want to take a guess? 23. And some as high as like in the 60s. So curious, I mean, 23 seems like a lot to me, but in your, you guys are so much, closer to it. Does that seem like a lot to you? But that's the average.
I hate to say no.
I'm
But
makes me want to go count.
we've got a lot. We got a little more than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
We
right.
always want to know
Interesting.
the information, right? I mean, that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see what the answers were to that poll. What did everybody in the audience say? All right. Complexity of workflow and approval process. It's those dang approvals. Um, catering for various partner types. I makes sense, but again, to Sue's point, again, the complexity on the back end helps the simplicity on the front end. So I think really, really figuring out that back end strategy is key here. Awesome. All right. We are going to move on to my favorite topic as the head of marketing, attribution, because that never comes up in my world. This is for all of you because, insider tip here, we obviously all had some conversations ahead of this. And I loved everyone sort of had a different answer to this question because of different business types and needs and whatnot. So I want to talk attribution because it's often where things get emotional. There are so many different approaches across our industry. Can each of you explain your model and importantly, why, right? Because certainly one size does not fit all. So, Sue, let's start with your attribution model and why.
Distribution. Well, from the partner perspective, right, like we happen to potentially have multiple partners going after an opportunity, it literally is first in. gets the deal reg protection on that. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean that another partner can't win the deal. They just wouldn't get the margins that come with deal reg protection, the support that come with deal reg protection. And for us, the reason for that is just the velocity of our sales cycle and my sales teams, right? So we encourage partners to register early, right? Like, and it goes back to that wanting as much information as early as possible. We might not get as much information as we'd like, but if it's registered early, at least we're then in path to get it approved and in process as quickly as possible. And our goal is within 3 days that deal
Okay.
within 3 working days that deal reg is either approved or rejected, with understanding and reasoning why. But yeah, it's that first in, first out for us.
Okay. All right. We got one vote for first in, first out. Kevin, let's go to
Yeah,
you.
I mean, we're the exact opposite of Sue, right? We've got complex
That's why I
solutions.
love this question.
Well, we have complex solutions and we have some simple
Yep.
solutions. And we actually started deal registration a few years ago for the first time with our channel partners. And so it was a learning curve for us. And so we went slowly and we used a points-based system to be able to show partners that, hey, you need to demonstrate that you know the most about your customer and then know the most about the deal happening with that particular customer. That made it more objective than subjective, and I think that helped us get off the ground with deal registration. I think we've only had a couple of situations where we had a points match and we kind of put it to a tie, etc. But the teams were able to manage that pretty effectively. As we brought new solutions to the fore, we started with first in, first out, especially with our simpler solutions. We also have a territory segmentation, especially in North America or by country. And so that helps a lot, right? Because we
Yeah.
know if a partner is coming from a certain state, then yeah, that's their state, et cetera, right? So there's a couple of rules of engagement that we have tied into um, our modeling, and that certainly helped as we move forward. Now, what's really happened with us with regard to our modeling is the list of solutions has compounded, and all of a sudden we've got a lot of things to look at, and it's all getting a little bit complex in general, the actual process. So we're ripe for doing some process improvement in that space.
Yep. Yep. Makes sense. Tim.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the objectives of the vendor.
Mhm.
As far as do they want greenfield new account growth? Do they want growth within existing accounts? And the deal registration process net tends to be tailored to that. And I also, so the if they want net new accounts and there's nothing in Salesforce, it should be auto approved. And then I think the nuance then is when you have questions, and then when escalation needs to be involved to determine, is this net new or are we already in there? And those instances, I think you need to involve a sales rep on an escalation, just to get the background on accounts. But generally, is it net new? And is it, depending on the size of the vendor, is it a new account? Is it a net new opportunity? All that stuff comes into play. Yeah.
Yeah.
In,
It's not
in
it's not a simple answer. It has to be right based on the factors of the business. And Kevin, to your point, solid rules of engagement take some of the emotion out of it, right? It's only emotional if it's unclear. If it's super clear and everyone knows the rules and you're very transparent about it, then you can, I won't say reduce, eliminate completely, but you're certainly reducing the emotion out of the situation. Um,
Right.
which that gets us to our next poll question that I'm really curious about, which is how many of you have enforcement of rules to prevent channel conflict? Whoops. I think we got the wrong poll. But answer that one. Because we're getting to that question next. All good. Um, all right. I hopefully we'll be able to get that enforcement question up there and get back to that because I'm very curious what everyone says and how many have enforcement and more importantly, who's doing the enforcement, right? Like what in the process is doing it. But this poll just led the witness on the next area we're going to talk about, which is what good looks like operationally. Um, Sue, what does best in class deal registration experience actually look like today from the partner perspective?
Awesome. So looking at from a partner perspective, and we're certainly on this journey ourselves as a vendor, right? Like so it starts with quick confirmation, knowing that hey, the deal reg has been received. Um, Very immediate communication. We typically will try to touch a deal reg within 15 to 30 minutes, right? Like so at least there's some acknowledgement to the partner, hey, we've received it, we're investigating it. We shoot for a 72-hour approval. So we had built-in automations around that. We've taken out the automations, but we still see within 72 hours a deal reg is either approved or rejected. Extenuating circumstances, and if there's extenuating circumstances, like maybe the deal was already in play or there's something else we need to know, there's communication with the partner about that. There's transparency. So the folks I have approving the deal registrations or rejecting them are not the ones who are financially incented. They're not the ones that are going to work the deals and close the deals. So it's not that fox guarding the hen house situation where
Yes.
a rep can say, I don't want to do it because I want to win that deal myself directly, right? Like that's not there. And then there's post deal registration support, enablement, and making sure the partner has the resources they need. We typically run the demo with the partner, so it's getting them connected quickly with the person who's going to run the demo and work the sales of the process. Because remember that deal registration is the tip of the spear to actually winning the business, right? But that's what we shoot for in terms of um, trying to have what good looks like from a partner's perspective, knowing that there's always room for improvement.
Yes, and I love the not the fox guarding the hen. He or she that financially benefits from it should not be the ultimate approver of it.
Correct.
Kevin, what about you? Obviously, again, very, high touch, high engagement model. What does best in class look like in your world?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the tip of the spear, I think seeing the entire life cycle of the deal from a partner perspective is important. Are we there yet? No, we're on a similar journey to Suit. To be honest, you're right. And I think deal reg is always evolving. But being able to show the partner their deals that they've obviously registered and what revenue is associated or booking has associated with that deal through its life cycle, I think is important. I could even go further up the life cycle to the lead that was sent to the partner and how that got converted to a deal and then push it all the way through our opportunity management cycle, right? So I think that visibility is really important because then you get the operational folks touching the deals as opportunities the same way as the direct teams would touch them, and it just becomes part of the standard process. And I think as a growing channel community in our organization, that's really important to us, right? And I think operational excellence includes making sure everybody sees what's coming from the channel. So I think that's important. On the back end, then it's can you incentivize based on the amount of deal registrations that have been submitted? Was that net new customer? Was that net new product or portfolio? Was that a competitive takeout? These are all great things to look at. I think if you've got a stable and solid foundation of a deal registration process, that can come. And I know a lot of folks probably on this call already have that in place. I think that's an area that certainly I feel is, from an operational excellence point of view, is where we need to go.
Yeah. Yep. That's great. Let's see the answers to the poll question we asked ahead of time. The question was, how long does deal registration approval typically take in your organization? This crew had all said 72 hours to me, in our pre-meeting. So yeah, 24 to 72 hours, half the group. So everyone's right along.
Hey, Dan,
Um,
I do think it's going to with these new AI tools like Scale-in coming out, the channel will demand it comes down.
yeah.
As these technologies become more pervasive, I think the channel will demand almost immediate responses.
I
with the new.
agree, and you just teed up perfectly. I promised everyone after Adam showed we were gonna come back to the AI piece, and we obviously laid the foundation on friction and trust and operational process. So now let's bring in the AI conversation, and think about what's possible, right? In terms of these operational layers. So I'm going to start with the poll question, and just so we can be getting that answer while we're all talking about this. But the question is, where do you think AI can make the biggest impact on the deal registration process? So while I'm suddenly in Austin with you, Sue. Uh, I'm going to ask the whole group. Adam showed us how we're enabling AI to improve visibility, improve conflict resolution, speed up the process, as Tim, you just said. As we move deeper into AI and automation, where have you seen technology genuinely improve the experience? And then also, where does human judgment still matter? And so, Tim, since you just teed this up, I'm going to start with you. Obviously, there's it's greenfield to have AI help improve this process. But I'd like to know what you've seen really work.
I, what I've seen is it can reinforce all existing policies all the time. So,
Yeah,
any time that you ask a question that might be, hey, is this a rules of engagement? It can say, hey, here's the current rules of engagement. It can tell that to a partner. It can tell that to a sales rep. It can tell that to a CAM. It can be a huge reinforcing element that just reminds everybody this is how the company operates. And so from that perspective, I think it have immediate positive impact, reduce channel conflict, start building that trust layer up.
yeah.
And so it has a lot of potential. And everybody here, we're starting to rely more on these AI technologies. I think the channel can too with vendors once it's rolled out.
And when I think about what Adam showed, right, like we're all not getting endless head count this year, right? Like that's not happening. So when you think about how quickly it can speed up process like duplicate deals and finding what you need at your fingertips and not sorting through spreadsheets and long lists and whatnot, I would think time savings is obviously a big factor here. But Sue, I'll jump to you. What do you think in terms of AI and automation?
Certainly, everything that Tim mentioned about that faster time to approval. Partners actually even now want immediate approval, right? Like let's
Yeah,
be honest, right? Like they want to know right away if a deal is approved or rejected. But being able to speed that up with confidence, right? Like with AI assisted, I don't think AI is going to take out that human element in a case like that. But having that AI assistance is really huge for that. And then future state. We've talked about this, Pam.
yep,
Pulling in the, hey, you registered your deal for XYZ type of solution. Here's some resources that might help you in that sales process, or for based on geo or geography or vertical market, those sorts of things. So that's what I'd love to see things look like. And then of course moving toward even a headless
right.
situation, right? Like I'm stealing your thunder, I'm afraid. But those are
No,
all things that are future state, but I think we've got to build on what we have now to get there and walk, crawl, walk, run on our way there. We're
right.
still at that crawl stage in some ways.
Right. No, I agree, especially with the first poll question we asked, right? If the majority of the people aren't using AI yet, we've got a little ways to go. But yeah, thinking about is it all done in Teams or Slack? Is it completely headless? And is it taking you all the way through from deal to write content to write incentives? And it's just one, kind of continuous conversation with an agent could be really cool. Kevin, what do you hope this process looks like 3 years from now? Where do you want to see it go?
Well, I'm not sure 3 years from now because I think the future is here.
Yes,
I
that's
mean,
fair.
a big IT giant just announced they have automated deal registration on their new AI platform as of this week, and I think so. It's been talked about, thought about, envisioned, designed, executed. From my perspective, I think with the amount of partner data we have, the amount of customer data we have, territory data, pricing data, et cetera, AI is just going to completely shift everything that we think about, right? In my opinion. Yeah, you can, manually you can reduce forms, you can segment forms, you can do all sorts of things. But to Tim's point, you can have AI like with telling you the rules of engagement, telling you the governance model, almost teaching you what not to do. And I think with the amount of data that we have out there, I think there's a huge opportunity there for to get to a level of automation and a level of pre-approval, automated approval that we've never seen before, right?
Yeah. Yep. No, really good point. Um, all right. Let's see the answer to the poll question. I almost forgot about that and moved on, but let's pop that up. Faster approve auto-filling registration data. So no one wants to fill out those damn forms, do they? Let's just auto do it for them. Intelligent routing and workflows, and of course, faster approval. Love it. Awesome. All right. I want to make sure we leave time for some questions at the end. So we are moving into our lightning round, where I have two questions left, but I think these are important, takeaways for everybody listening. First question, and Kevin, you're up, so I'm going to start with you. What's the one thing vendor organizations consistently get wrong about deal registration? If we're being a little self-reflective as vendors as a whole, where do we keep missing?
Well, a lot of vendors, I don't want to say a lot, I'll speak for other vendors. What I know is the whole idea of just compounding solution over solution, product over product, deal over deal into the system actually just makes it bigger, more complex. And a lot of people are not seeing the wood from the trees, right? And I think that's a challenge that you see a lot where, hey, I've built the deal registration module. Now let's just run it. And all of a sudden, the product teams come in, let's sell this product. The pricing teams come in, let's do this promotion, et cetera, right? And all of a sudden, you're just building on top of it and on top of it. So I think having, an objective-based approach to the actual structure of the workflow really is important. Quarterly reviews, biannual reviews to understand that the partner experience is still the same as you envisaged it because it can change over the course of time. I think that's one of the challenges. We visited deal registration. Like I said, we launched it a few years ago, but we've revisited it probably every year and had a look at it and said, why did we do that? Right. And just again, we've been doing that self-reflection ourselves. So our time is now again. So I think that's one of the things that we consistently got wrong relative to just allowing it to happen. But we're slowly but surely getting a governance model in place that will help that going forward.
Yeah. Yep. And with AI too, right? Like it's going to be continuous test and learn,
Oh,
like anything else, right? You've got to launch, you've got to learn, you got to launch again and adjust.
absolutely.
Sue, how about you?
I think Kevin nailed it with the complexity, right? Like keeping things simple.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to do. You know,
Well,
so trying to keep things simple perspective and make sure that you've got transparency through the process. And be willing to try new things, right? Like we've tried some automations that ended up not working, uh, but we tried them and we're able to quickly call, yep, this is working, this is not. So all around trying to keep things as simple as possible from the partner's view, the partner's perspective.
yeah. No, that makes sense. Tim, different take on it?
Yeah, mine's a little different. Me, I think a little different, but mine is I think vendors stop being hungry with the channel. And they get up, I don't want to say entitlement, but they get a little bit like, hey, the partners should want to sell this, or they should want to sell us. Even some of the big channel centric vendors kind of get there. And as we said, trust is a long time going up, but you need to be hungry to build trust all the time, and you need to be hungry to adjust channel programs and try and focus on some of those core pillars that we talked about earlier. And
Okay.
I think a lot of vendors lose sight of that.
No, that's a good point. Good point. All right. Um, and I'm seeing some questions in here, so I definitely want to make sure we get to those. My closing question, Going back to everybody, what's one piece of advice you'd give partner leaders trying to modernize their deal registration? So we talked about what's possible with AI. You've seen some of what's actually in reality right now with AI. So Tim, I'll start with you. What's one piece of advice you'd give partner leaders?
Is develop metrics, vet them with sales leadership, and continually vet them till you think that they really meet the need. Sales leaders care about net new from the channel. And the more you can report that up to sales leadership on a consistent basis and then take action where you might have problems, like, hey, we're not booking anything in the Pacific Northwest. You know what? Hey, I see this. This is what we're doing about it. That type of approach, being proactive and pushing that data up to sales management, I think is something every partner leader can do.
I'm hearing again your comment about Northwest, like again segmentation and being able to zone in and fix specific areas, not the whole process as a whole, continues to play a role here. Sue, what about you?
Say to us, have a deal reg process that's transparent and one that has our rules of engagement that are in the partner's favor, right? Like,
Yeah,
things like cloud neutrality, things like transparency, and that whole step of not having the people who benefit financially be the ones that approve or reject deal regs, right? So have things transparent and in the partner's favor with your rules of engagement.
yeah, I love that. Yeah, clear. I heard from all of you like clear rules of engagement and clear unbiased approval roles. Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, tactically, I think it's really honing in on what information you need to get from the partner to continue the process. That's kind of legacy thinking. I think strategically is go figure out the best AI platform out there to automate your deal registration and go get it done. I think you'll skip a beat with regards to a lot of I don't want to say hardships, but just the complexities that folks like us have gone through over the years, right? I mean, you're trying to continuously improve a process. You're trying to continuously make sure that the process is as quick as you possibly can make it, and as simple as you can make it. And the reality is I think with the advent of new technologies coming out, take the risk, right?
Yeah,
Do your research, take the risk, work with known vendors, and go and figure it out, right? I think that's where everyone's going. Anybody who's using AI today in their work environment knows the power of AI. Why not, right?
right.
So I mean, I'd be very much pro risk and go for it. And so I think people should start thinking about it from now.
I agree, right? If there was ever a point in time when when it's hit pause, it's like extreme home makeover, right? Like hit pause and blow it up. And one of the things we've been doing with our clients is really these workshops, right? To take a look, have an unbiased view. You're so deep in it, have someone else who's seeing programs across the board take a look at the process, evaluate it, workshop the art of the possible.
Mhm.
How do we revamp this completely, to your point, using AI, using more segmentation, simplifying it on the front end. But yeah, it feels like this is the time. It's here. So now's the good point to take a look.
Yeah, and for the 80% of the audience who said they're not looking at it right now, I think it's time to start, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
really is. Rip off the Band-Aid and go look at it in earnest.
Yep, I agree. Thank you. So we are about to open it up to questions. And I'm hoping if we can put on a slide for a second. So I'm doing two quick humble brags, and that's it from me on shameless self-promotion here. But one, as I mentioned, our team are knee deep in sort of doing these makeover workshops and how we can help again take a new look at a process and revamp it and add that automation and simplicity. But two is we have developed an ROI calculator, both a quick one, which you can use the QR code now, and it takes only a couple minutes of your time, but it's going to help you figure out, are you leaving revenue on the table? Could you be saving more hours in your day? But behind the quick one is a very deep dive analysis that our team can help you with. So whether you're trying to prove a business case, whether you're just trying to figure out and how to optimize your own program yourself, that quick consultation and deep dive on our calculator, I think, is something that could benefit again in a sort of this critical point in time that we're faced with. Um, and like I said, that's my 2 second spiel. But now let's get to the questions. So I have been trying to monitor as we go, which is no easy feat while you're also moderating a webinar. But I see a question from Sam that says, we see a lot of partners using operations resources, submitting registrations in the portal, not so much by the partner reps. Does this vary by industry, perhaps? So I will throw it to the panelists of anyone who wants to take that question.
I think it varies by partner size. The bigger the partner are, the more they'll have a centralized op team, and then they'll kind of have an all-encompassing submit to a deal reg, name the vendor, and then the ops team, goes on and logs and does it. So the bigger the partner, the more likely they are to have a centralized ops team doing that stuff.
Okay. Sue, did you have a thought on that one?
Yeah, no, Tim's exactly right. Like we have some of our larger partners that have a deal desk that submits the deal reg on behalf of their whole team. And so part of the question for those particular partners is who's the actual sales rep involved too. So you need to make sure that you capture the data you need to move the deal forward in the sales cycle if it is a deal desk type situation.
Okay. Sue, I'm going to guess, since you said first in, first out, this question's for you. It says, challenges with first in, first out automation as partner A might be approved, but the customer prefers has been engaged with partner B. Flipping the registration or dual registration erodes trust. How do you get around this in your organization?
It's a sticky wicket, right? Like to be prepared,
Yes.
right? And that's where we'll communicate clearly with both partners involved. We by our ROEs, we need to protect the partner that was the first one there. But at the same time, we want to respect what the customer's wishes are, right? Like if they wish to purchase through partner B, we'll do what we can to help partner B in this situation. But based on our rules of engagement, we do need to protect the partner A financially from the start.
Makes sense. Okay.
So it's a lot of communication and transparency and bringing in my key leadership to address those situations.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, the customer experience is the priority, right? And so, if the customer wants to work with a partner, then the customer works with that partner. We do have some fallbacks in some situations where we have a partner to partner program, right? Where we can kind of split the deal with the partner, be really down to capability more than anything else. But I wouldn't necessarily link it to the question on if it's FIFO and you got to split the deal, but sometimes the partner doesn't have all the capabilities. And so being able to have some kind of collaboration in the field, I think is it really gets the customer what they need, right? And so in some cases, we'll have partner A register the deal, but pull in partner B, right? And that's a meet in the channel supported by the vendor approach that basically achieves the customer's objective.